you literally died and came back to life.
We came back and there were fire trucks everywhere. And then I realized our house was on fire. My husband died during COVID. It's the first time that so many people had to grieve, but they had to grieve alone. We don't know how to take care of ourselves. One thing is choose to live. We have to choose life.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Own Your Brand Show. I'm your girl, Victoria Odekomaya, and on this special Behind the Brand series, I have a wonderful lady, LaVreen Hall, with me, and she's going to be sharing a lot about her struggles and how she's turning that into empowering not only herself, but a lot of business owners out there. I think that you're going to be very, very inspired because when it comes to people going through challenges, let me tell you, this woman has gone through it. She's died and come back again. And if she can do that, I think that gives us the hope that we can all do it too. So without much ado, let's get into it. Hi, LaVreen. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much.
Oh, my goodness. You are alive and well and
I'm
here.
alive and well, yes. Oh. I'm breathing.
Good. So we'll get into that because I just mentioned how you literally died and came back to life. But for people that don't know who you are, can you just give them a brief introduction?
Sure. I'm LaVreen Hall. I'm the owner of Just Words, and I'm the founder of FIT. And I do mental health coaching, workshops, retreats. I'm an author. I have a new book coming out on healing. Nice. And that's pretty much what I do. Who I am as a person, would you like to know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So basically, I was born and raised in Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm a Hoosier. And I had a challenging childhood. Mm-hmm. Grew up around a lot of people in poverty, which gave me a certain perspective on that. And then I went into just kind of being a peacemaker and helping people. I suffered from severe migraines as a child, so it gave me a lot of time to read and to think and to observe and kind of decide what I wanted to do. And so from a very young age, I always knew that I wanted to help people. I wanted to help them overcome their situations, overcome the poverty and the effects that it has on them.
That's amazing. And I mean, Just Words. That's the name of your business.
My company is Just Words because words are very important. They have life and death in them. And I find that the words that we speak to ourselves can either help empower us or it can tear us down. And the words that other people speak to us helps to create those belief systems that we operate out of every single day. And then the Word of God, His Word is the Word, and it moves through our lives, and it is there to guide us and teach us and to help us. And so those three things are just very integral. So when I started thinking about a name of a company, I said Just Words, because at the time I was bedridden, and I said, my body is all jacked up, but I can still do something with my mind to help other people.
That's amazing.
And so that's what I decided on, Just Words.
I love that. It's very simple, just words.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And words deliver us.
I know, and so powerful. And you're using that to transform lives of people. So I said before that, you've gone through a lot of adversity, maybe more than a lot of people that I know. You lost your husband, you've had your house burnt down to zero, and then you literally died for 11 seconds and came back oh my God.
There has been a lot of adversity. I think it started when I was a kid with the migraine headaches, and they were so bad they lasted months at a time, and the doctors weren't able to get those under control. And so I spent a lot of time indoors. And then going from that to being, a teenager going off to college, and I got very sick in college, and so I came back home and finished in IUPUI up until my junior year, and had my kids and got married, and after 17 years went back to school. But, I was bedridden for 12 years. They could not figure out what was wrong with me. I was having all type of symptoms and got declared totally disabled at 27 years old. Wow. And that was really a challenge, being that young and having young kids and not being able to care for them. It made me feel like, oh, you're a bad mother. You're not this, you're not that.
And you have a lot of kids, so you have about 7.
Yeah,
I
we have
believe.
6 kids.
6, yeah. So like that, I can imagine what that feels like, because if you have one, maybe they'll understand. But each kid has different needs too.
Each kid has different needs, and came up with some very ingenious ways to spend time with them and to meet their needs individually. And so it was just a really interesting time, but during that time, I got called into ministry. And so my husband, who passed away, he got me back into church, and I started participating, and it was just a very interesting journey. And so I went from being bedridden to up and moving around, and in the midst of that, I lost my best friend, who had been the one taking care of me. I lost my godmother. And so it was a series of deaths. And then I was back in school. I went to Christian Theological Seminary to finish my degrees in some master programs. But it was interesting because I had to pay my way through. I didn't get the scholarships and things that I applied for. And so I was like, how am I going to do this? And so I basically paid for one class at a time or 2 classes at a time. But the interesting thing is people would send me money in my mailbox. I got money from pastors overseas that I didn't even know. And so at the last day before the final deadline to pay your bill, I would have all this money from these different sources.
Wow.
And so it was just a really a journey where you learn to depend on the goodness of the Lord and the goodness of people. And they never failed me.
Won't he do it? Like, he's always on time.
Yes, he's always on time. And I was assistant pastor at Speedway Church, Baptist Church. And it was so interesting how that happened. I went for an interview and I told them, well, I don't know if I'll do this because I have to pay for my schooling and it's not paid yet. And they said, we're going to give you the advance and we're going to pay your school and you're going to serve here.
Wow.
And so Pastor Ted, I was always grateful to him.
That's amazing.
And, and being with him as a pastor, God was showing me the soft side of leadership. He was showing me how to lead softly and how to be creative in the way that you present the word and present yourselves. And so I was very developed during that time.
Right. And these are all the things that you teach in your program right now.
Yes, these are things that I teach in my program, And then going from that, you mentioned that my husband died during COVID. That was so interesting because it's the first time that so many people had to grieve, but they had to grieve alone.
Yeah.
And they didn't have the closure of a funeral or a wake and family coming to support them.
Right.
And so a lot of this developed during that time also. So one of the things I did was journal just how hard it was during that time. I made these videos and put them on YouTube. And I found out that a lot of people were actually listening and watching the videos and getting practical tips and being able to acknowledge and accept their pain too.
Yeah.
And it made them feel less alone.
Because it was such a tough time for everybody. But then when you lose a partner or friend, that makes it even worse because you don't have any. We couldn't go out.
No.
It was like now you're on all yourself. I remember you told me about a story. I think it was at the hospital that you weren't even able to.
Yeah. When my husband got sick and we had to take him to the hospital, we couldn't even go in. The guard was about ready to pull his gun on me. Wow. And that in itself was scary. But what was more scary is, my husband was weak. I couldn't go in and help him get to the desk and fill out the paperwork. And he fell out in the lobby and then I'm waiting to hear what's going on. We dropped him off about 8 a.m, but I didn't find out he was admitted and in the hospital room until like 5:30.
Wow.
And he called me bawling. I've never heard him bawl that way. But he was crying because there were so many kids in there that didn't have their parents and babies who was crying. And that's part of the pandemic that they didn't talk about.
That's right.
And so that was kind of devastating. But it was a very unusual time. And I had 3 days to bury him before they were going to put them in the mass grave. So I was arguing with the little guy at the morgue. I'm like, you're going to release this body right now. But we finally got it done, and we did get him buried in 3 days. But it was still challenging because you can only have 6 people at the funeral or at the graveside service. And I have 6 kids. 2 of them couldn't come. And it was interesting because Homeland Security was there, and if you had more than the people, the first two you get fined, and then they said after that they were going to take them to jail. So it was a very...
On top of the grieving and everything else that's already happening.
On top of the grieving and everything else, and then on top of that, I couldn't be at the casket when the other people were there because me and my son had been around him, and then they found out I was asymptomatic. So my son and I had to go up first and say what we're going to say. Then we had to wait in the car. So it was just kind of really a very isolating period of time. And I was like, oh, God, what do we do? How do we help people?
Right.
So one of the ways was just to share the story.
Wow. So you turned your pain into helping other people.
Yes.
That's amazing. Wow. Oh, my goodness. So talk about a little bit about how your house burns down, because that was another thing, right?
Yeah, in 2019, it was really interesting.
Wait a minute, in 2019, before 2020?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
So there was a series of things that happened. So around 2014, 15, a young lady, I call her young, but she was an older lady. But she ran into the back of me, and we didn't realize it at the time, but the tendons in my foot were torn in my ankle. And so, I'm walking and things kept hurting more and more. And I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. So finally we found out I was going to have foot surgery. So I did 8 weeks with your leg up in the air. And then I went to physical therapy and she broke my bone.
Oh, my goodness.
And so I had just gotten kind of on my feet. And we were in the habit of going to lunch with the kids that we have here. I have 4 kids that live in the city. So we were used to going to lunch. And so my husband was like, oh, they're not going to make it, da-da-da. And I was like, well, I'm kind of working on something, too. And then I heard God say, go to lunch. So I said, well, we're going to go ourselves. And so we went ourselves, and we came back, and there were fire trucks everywhere. And I'm like, oh, my gosh, I thought my neighbor was sick again. And then I realized our house was on fire.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it was very interesting. And so then my son was like, Mom, why y'all in a hotel? If it was us, we would be in the house with you, so you got to come and stay with us. So we moved in with my son, and that was a really good, fun time. I still live with my son. Between him and my daughter, they kind of tug of war with me.
I bet. They want mama,
Yeah, they want mama there, so.
And then through all of this, something happened, and then you passed away. I mean, you died and then.
Yeah, it was just really weird. But COVID left me with a lot of long haul symptoms. So I had spots on my lungs. I was having trouble breathing with my asthma. I was blacking out and just, we didn't know why. So they had put in a heart monitor, but it wasn't really showing anything. And I was having seizures, and it was just a lot of stuff. Wow. So I was kind of sick that day on a Friday, and I was praying and listening to a sermon on TV, and I got excited because this pastor was in Chicago, and he was an old school pastor, but he was full of the Spirit. And I got to shouting in my bed. So then I got up and shouted around my bed and got back in the bed. And I heard God say, I still have work for you to do. And I said, oh, okay, Lord, well, I'll do it. But, I can't do it like this, having memory losses, hitting my head, concussions. And I said, if you give the doctor some revelation, let it be fixable, because I don't want nothing I know that ain't fixable.
Right.
And then let it get fixed. And I went on to sleep, and I woke up on the bathroom floor. Wow. And I didn't know I had died at the time. Wow. But I thought, okay, passed out, hit your head again. My head was banging, and I was like, oh, man, I don't have my phone with me. And so I said, oh, hey, technology. Hey, Siri. I'm like, call my son, call my daughter, and after I was able to reach my son, I said, okay. I called my mother, and I said, I need you to sing my favorite gospel hymns. And she's like, I'm calling the ambulance. I'm like, Mama, they already on the way. I just need my hymns. And that was so comforting to me. But I kind of don't remember a lot after that. But somehow my daughter got there. She took me to the hospital. And all I remember them saying is cold purple. And then everybody was like running and pulling my arms and sticking you with needles. And
oh my God.
I just was like, okay. So I spent the weekend in the hospital. But the funny thing is, I only remember a boiled egg, a slice of toast. And when the doctor was telling me what was wrong, I was thinking, no, that ain't it. You don't have That is really all I remember. I don't remember people coming to see me. I don't remember the prayer calls and any of that. But I got home on Monday morning, and I was very happy because I was hungry.
Yeah.
I'm a foodie.
Right.
And I just really wanted to eat and go to sleep.
Eat good food, not the
Yes,
hospital food.
right. I wanted to
yeah.
eat some good food and go to sleep.
Right.
And I remember they got me in the bed, and when the phone rang, it felt like a bullhorn was right here in my ear, and my head was hurting so bad. And I answered, and I'm like, I'm wondering, who is this lady on the phone? But it was my heart doctor. And she's like, where have you been? We've been trying to find you all weekend. So next thing I know, my kids are dressing me, and they're like, you going back to the hospital? I'm like, I just came home, you know.
Wow.
I could talk, but I couldn't process what was being said. So the words just were like kind of empty meaning. They weren't quite connecting. And but they got me back to the hospital, and these doctors kept coming in, and I'm like, why? I kept asking, are you going to do the surgery? Because they told me they were going to put in a pacemaker. And I kept saying, are you doing the surgery? And they're like, no, I'm not doing the surgery. And so after the fourth or fifth one, I was like, well, why these doctors keep coming in and y'all not the ones doing the surgery?
Like, what's
and he
going
said,
on?
because you're supposed to be in the morgue. You know, you were dead for 11 seconds. You came through at the last stage of death where you're eliminating, and there was no intervention. And he said, but he could see that I wasn't really grasping. So he went and got a picture of a regular EKG and mine. And I was crazy out of it, but I could see it's a big difference.
Oh,
there
my
was no
goodness.
peaks at the top or the bottom.
Wow.
Just a little half mound in a line. And
Oh my.
I found out later that they wanted me at the hospital then because I was having a whole beat, then a half, and then it would skip, no beat, and then it would. So it was really not very stable.
My goodness.
But now I do remember everything about that surgery.
Wow.
And I was happy for the most part. I was like not scared. I was jovial because I knew that God had answered my prayer.
He had already told you I got work for you
I
to
had
do.
known He had answered my prayer. And
Yeah.
so they were laughing when we was going to the surgery room because I was like, well, what if I have to go to the bathroom? Because they were telling me how long it was going to take. And they said, we got you covered.
Right, like that's the least thing you should worry about right
That's
now.
the least thing you have to worry about, yes.
Oh
and
my goodness.
But yeah, I remember it all very clearly.
That's amazing. And I think the one thing I really love about your story is that how you've had all these unique experiences, but you're now turning around to help people.
Yeah.
You know, you just recently did a retreat. Tell us a little bit about that and why you're even doing the retreat.
Oh, yeah. So I did a healing retreat this past weekend, and it was awesome. The healing retreat came about because when I got out of the hospital back home after having to put the pacemaker in, I was sitting there and I was kind of just praying, and God said, I want you to do a healing retreat. Wow. And I was like, a healing retreat? But I said, okay, I'll do it, but maybe next year, maybe not this year.
Right,
you know. So after a year and a half of doing therapy and going through different things, I heard it again. I said, oh, okay, I'll do it. And then he gave me the weekend he wanted me to do it.
Wow. He's
And
like,
then he gave me the title.
You are not
yes,
moving this again.
Do you really want to be healed?
Right.
And so I said, okay, well, I'm going to do it. And so I had called a friend, and I said, you know, I'm going to do this healing retreat because people need healing. On the outside, we're happy, we're moving around, doing things, we're going to work. But on the inside, we got this core experience or this core pain that we're living our lives out of. And we could be so much happier, so much more freedom, and so much whole. We could be whole if we get rid of this pain.
Right.
And healing is a journey. It's not a destination. And so it's not like when you're sick in the hospital and you give you medicine and you come home and you're cured. It's not like that. It's a process. And so we started planning the healing retreat, and God was very specific on how he wanted the flow to be, what he wanted them to experience. And so it was really a time to have an intentional community to heal with. So we kick off the weekend with a gala where you celebrate you, and it was awesome. People felt free and had a good time. And then on Saturday, we did a lot of different workshops and sessions and things to help you just release some of that pain and identify what was really inside that you didn't want other people to see. And then on Sunday, we closed with a brunch. And so after that, we have what we call the Rafa experience, where once a month we will get together and we will talk about a different aspect of healing so that no one is left alone with the pain that they remembered or what was brought up for them. And it was just amazing. The women were transformed, and even people that I didn't expect to be delivered during that time. Like the DJ was delivered, the caterer was delivered.
Wow.
It was just different people receiving whatever God had for them to receive. And it was amazing, yes.
Wow. So the DJ was like, he's only there to just DJ. Now it's like, look, I'm getting something.
Yes, he just talked about, he heard what I said to the women, and he was talking about men need this too. And I'm actually planning a men's retreat, a men's healing retreat, because men do need healing. They hurt just like we hurt. Right. And they often don't have the outlet to talk about it as much as women. As women, we're going to sit and talk. We're going to vent. We're going to share.
Right.
But men tend to keep it closed in. And so I just want men and women to be healed, to be made whole. And our scripture was John 5:7 with the man who laid by the pool for 38 years. Ooh. And then Jesus says, rise up, take up your bed and walk. And I told him, I had a hard time as a child with that story in the Bible, because I was like, this is Jesus. You can just reach out and heal the man. You can touch, or you can just speak and it'll be done. Right. And so I was like, why did he have to tell him to rise up? And so during the retreat, one of the things we talked about, I said, to rise is hard. And every time we have a disappointment, every time we have that desperation and that desire, we have to learn to rise up, and I said, think about how hard it was to be by there for 38 years, and now Jesus is telling you to rise up. We're going to sit here for 20, 30 minutes, and we get ready to rise up. We're going to be like, woo, you feel it. And so we talked about every time you have a disappointment, you have to rise. And so if we don't heal that deep inner pain, to rise gets harder and harder, to the point where we don't rise anymore. Oh, wow. And so I really want people to be delivered from that.
That's amazing. That's so powerful. And I know part of your work is also using those soft skills to help us even with self-care and things like that. So tell us a little bit about how, a lot of our audience are female entrepreneurs, business owners that, it's just hard out there.
It is hard, but one of the reasons I developed the self-care course, it's an 8-week course. I developed that because we don't know how to take care of ourselves. Oh. And
say it again for the people at the back.
We don't know how to take care of ourselves. We're so busy taking care of everybody else. And when you're an entrepreneur, you're trying to get everything done. And if you're the one-stop shop, you got to do all the different parts.
And you know how sometimes we always, even though we're tired, we're like, I can do extra thing and just keep doing one more and one more.
Yeah, push through needs to be pushed away. We got to stop doing that. You got to stop pushing through when you're tired and exhausted, because you got to learn how to rest. Ooh. And in the book, I talk about rest is not just about going to sleep.
Wait, did you say a book?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Tell us about the book.
Well, for the healing retreat, I wrote a book on healing.
Okay.
Because we have to know how to heal and what healing looks like.
Yeah.
And so in the book, we talk about rest, and it's the mental rest, the emotional rest, the physical rest, and all that is part of resting. Right. And as women, even as African American or Black women, our history with rest is very complicated.
That's right.
And we've been taught that we have to be productive. We got to be active all the time. And that is counterproductive. It's unhealthy. And we can't do that.
Right.
So we talk about healing. Part of your healing is learning how to rest. And self-care. It's not just taking care of your body, getting your nails done, getting your hair done. It's also caring for your mind, your brain, your organs, your atmosphere, the places that you are. It's a very involved process.
Yeah.
And so I developed a self-care course as part of my leadership certificate, because I wanted them to know that the soft skills that you learn in taking care and managing you transfers into your business, it transfers into your community and your job, your career.
Yeah. Let's talk about mental health, because that's another big topic that is huge these days. And I know that, some people don't even agree that is an illness.
Yeah, mental health is very important. So during the 12 years where I was bedridden, I kept thinking about the mental health, because the doctors was telling me, oh, it's all in your head. You need to go see a shrink. You need to go to a psychologist. And they were really pretty dismissive. And I said, you know what, Lord, I don't want other people going through this. And everything that was needed was so expensive.
Yeah.
So I asked God to allow me to be able to help people with their mental health and do it at an affordable price. Yeah. So when I was 11, my aunt had a mental illness, and I used to go to back then, the hospital, mental health hospital, and I would go there and see her. And just looking at the people who was there, I will never forget, there was this young man, I keep saying young, but of course they were older, but only thing he could say was nigger. And no one wanted to help him while he was in there. The nurses were all offended, and I remember looking at him saying, he's trying to say something. He just doesn't know how to say it. Yeah. And so I had an apple, and I went over there and I handed him the apple, and he said, yes, yes. You know, he was hungry. And so I said, you know, if we can learn to hear what's not being said, and if we can give them voice, to voice what they're feeling and their experience, then they can be healed. And so mental health became very important to me, and so I went to school to study and learn mental health when I was working on my Master's of Divinity, and it is very crucial.
Yeah.
You know, we've been taught that, you know, if you're sick, okay, just keep on moving, take an aspirin.
Right.
But that doesn't take away the internal conflicts, the internal pains, the flashbacks that you have from the traumas that you have, and then the stressors of just everyday life, whether it's raising kids or being on the job or, you know, not making enough money. We have so many things happening in our world that everybody needs to go to a therapist. It needs to be ongoing. It needs to just part of your routine.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes you can't lean on your family to do the mental health part.
Right.
Because sometimes they are what's causing the mental health part.
I was going to say, I was like, maybe they're the one.
And sometimes they need the mental health. And
yeah,
so,
they themselves need that.
Yeah,
too.
and you know, and often we surround ourselves with people that are going through the same things that we're going through, so they can't bring you up.
That's right.
So that's why I think being in a therapist and having mental health coaching, which gives you the skills and the techniques to get through everyday life and that be prepared before that trauma comes.
That's right.
When you learn these skills, then when things happen, you can utilize them and better navigate the situation.
Wow. So I am so great. I mean, so I just feel so, what's the word here? I feel very, very inspired by your story, that you've taken all of the pain and all the things that you've gone through and turned it around so much so that you have a book, you have a retreat, you speak at different events, you're doing all those things to help others too. Yeah. So my question for you, for the people that are looking out there, you know, that are watching the show thinking, how do I get in touch with you? Because I need some help. You know, like, what do you have? I know you have that program and you have books. Where can we find your book? And how can we get in touch with you so that we can use some of the services that you have?
So my book should be released at the end of November.
Yeah.
It's going to be on Amazon. I'm excited. And then I have, I found it FIT. And so FIT stands for Faith Towards God, Financial Freedom, and Initiating Healthy Steps, one step at a time. And so that starts in January. I'll be doing another cohort in January. It's a 12-month program, and we focus on your mental, spiritual, relational health, and we build a community to where you can have sisterhood and togetherness. And then I have the self-care course that is going to start back up in October, the end of October. It's an 8-week course where you're working on that leadership and those soft skills so that when you are more authentic, when you're more whole, you can better negotiate the careers and the jobs. And so you can get in touch with me by calling my phone number, 317-697-6663. My website is www.LaVreen, LaVreen.org. And my email is justwords@lavreen.org.
I love that. I love that. So I'm going to make sure that everything is on the, link below. But just before we wrap up, is there anything of any word of encouragement or life that you can speak into people that might be watching right now and they may be going through the hardest time of their lives? And what can you say to just, give them that encouragement, that inspiration or motivation?
Okay. One thing is choose to live. We have to choose life intentionally because there's so many things that beat us down. And I think it's really important to remember that when we're in a trial, we're in the midst of a storm, we can't see beyond the storm, but know that the storm is temporary and that it passes. And we don't have to make our situation or our pain permanent. It's temporary. It's going to pass. And we need to learn to reach out and get the help that we need, whether it's a therapist or the doctors. And if your doctors are not responsive, I went to 27 neurologists before I found one that could actually find out what was wrong. Be determined, be persistent, and dream. Dream of being outside of that situation. And so that's what I would suggest to them.
Yeah, I love that. Your pain is not permanent.
It's not permanent.
I mean, I feel like it just gives us hope, because when you have that hope that it's going to change, then that's already the beginning of the healing process.
Yes, it is.
It's amazing.
And you have to keep hope. No matter what's going on, you have to keep your hope. And, you know, I always tell people to pray. If you're not a person who believes in God, then go sit in silence, commune in nature. But you have to be able to still your mind so that you can start plotting your course.
That's amazing. Wow. Thank you so much for coming and just
Thank you.
sharing with us. This has been such a great, amazing story, you know, and for you, word of encouragement as well. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. So, well, I am going to put all the links to all of, LaVreen's information down in the description notes. You already know how that goes. Make sure you click the link and reach out to her. She's going to start a new cohort in October, and I think that rolls over, right?
Yes.
If you don't get into the October, get on the waiting list and for the next one. And then I know there's a program started in January as well.
Yes, the FIT program starts in January, and the second healing retreat will be next August.
Look at that. So you have all the information. Make sure you sign up for our newsletter so you can be on top of all the news as things are coming up. But the last thing I think I'm going to leave you with is that just remember that your pain is not permanent.
Yes.
And keep the hope up. Until next time, have a great day.